There was this girl. It was my sophomore year at Samford University, and I kept seeing this girl around campus, but I couldn't find out anything about her, not even her name. Then one day I was riding on campus with my fraternity brother and friend, David George, when I saw the mystery girl drive by wearing a nursing uniform. I said, "Follow that car." We trailed her until she parked and went into her dorm. When she disappeared, I sneaked over to her car and looked in the window. There in the seat was one of her notebooks. The window was down, so of course, I reached in and picked up her notebook. On the front of the notebook was her name. I went back to my room, looked her up in the campus directory, and called her. I said, "You don't know me from Adam," but I got quickly to the point. "Would you like to go out this weekend?" She said she was going home on the weekend. "How about the next weekend?" I asked. "Well, I'll be going home the next weekend too." "You sure go home a lot," I said. "I have a boyfriend at home," she answered. And that was that, except it wasn't. A year later, I saw that girl on campus, and somehow I'd found out that her boyfriend was a student at Auburn. "You still going down to Auburn?" I asked casually. "Not anymore," she told me. "Bad news?" "Depends on how you look at it," she said with a twinkle in her eye. Aha! I had a chance. It wasn't long until Samford had our homecoming dance. Two guys had ridden with me to the dance, and that girl had ridden with another girl. I asked that girl to dance. It was about the second dance. She said, "I smell your cologne. I must be dancing too close." "No worries," I told her. "I wear a lot of cologne." I told my friends to find another ride home, and I drove that girl back to her dorm in my purple Volkswagen Beetle convertible. Sitting in front of her dorm that night, she told me that she was going to be a missionary. I was flabbergasted and told her, as if she'd care, I'm not getting on some slow boat to China. I wanted nothing to do with being a missionary. But we started dating. It was on again and off again for a year and a half. The missionary thing was always an obstacle. Plus, I was kind of a knucklehead, so that didn't help either. In the summer after my graduation, I left for Venezuela to serve for 2 years alongside missionaries. Now, I wasn't going to be a career missionary. This was just a temporary thing. That girl and I kind of stayed in touch, but by Christmas of 1981, that girl and I were through. That was that, except it wasn't. On July the 23rd, 1983, exactly 40 years before the day this episode of TV Church will first air, I stood in the altar of the 12th Street Baptist Church in Gadsden, looked into the eyes of that girl in the nursing uniform, Carrie Williams, who is now my wife, and we exchanged sacred vows. Then, with the permission of her minister father who performed the wedding, I kissed her right on the lips. Let me go back and fill in the blanks. One Sunday night, months after I thought we were finished, my phone rang in Venezuela, and it was her. That girl in the nursing uniform, Carrie Williams. She said she'd been thinking about missionaries and was just checking on me. I think she missed me. And by the time we hung up, I asked, how soon could we get married? Well, she came to Venezuela a few weeks later and stayed with missionaries, and on a gorgeous Caribbean beach, I asked her to marry me, and she said yes, and I gave her a ring, and she returned to the U.S. to plan a wedding, and I spent the longest 7 months of my life waiting for my tour to be over and come home to her. And we were married on July the 23rd, 1983, exactly 40 years ago. Welcome to TV, Tennessee Valley Church. Today, in this second week of the 3-week series on the family, I'm going to talk about marriage. Now, I know not everyone listening to me is married at the moment. You watching TV Church is a little bit like me going to the mailbox. Sometimes there's a letter for me and sometimes not. But I keep going. Actually, Carrie's the one who checks the mail, but You get my point. If today's mail is not for you, I hope you'll come back to the mailbox next week. Now, let's have some frank talk about marriage. First, strong marriages begin way before the wedding. If you're not yet married, listen to me. Strong marriages begin while we're dating. I'm talking about more than marriage counseling for engaged couples, although that is important. Two big factors in a successful marriage are unselfishness and self-discipline. One way we learn unselfishness and self-discipline is to make the unselfish and disciplined choice to wait for a sexual relationship until after the I do's. One reason I believe it's important that people not live together before marriage is that there's the real danger of developing a shallow attitude, a privileges without commitment kind of attitude. In fact, the National Marriage Project at Rutgers University concluded, once a low commitment pattern of relating is learned, it becomes hard to unlearn. If we don't learn unselfishness and discipline before marriage, our unselfishness and lack of discipline can wreak a heap of havoc after a marriage. Next, marriage is about love, not infatuation. Let me tell you, after 40 years, Carrie still makes my heart flutter. Remember, just because there's snow on the roof doesn't mean there's no fire in the furnace, if you get my drift. When we're playing golf together and she's in her golf outfit and I look over at her legs, woo! But that's not love. That's some primal feeling that I share with many other members of the animal kingdom. Love is a verb. I love Carrie when I serve her and appreciate her and honor her. The result of that love is a great feeling, but that feeling is not the love. Love of the marrying kind is based on a decision to love. I want to be careful here not to make marriage sound like drudgery, that you just have to stick with it because we made a promise. And yet at the same time, that which holds couples together is not the romantic, oogly-googly feelings that brought them together. That which keeps couples together is a commitment to covenant love. Love based on a promise, not just feelings. Next, it's not primarily about who you marry, but about who you are. I was thinking about asking Carrie to marry me. It was that time between the phone call that I told you about and her visit to Venezuela. And I was talking to a missionary, Richard Clement, about her impending visit. Carrie Williams, I said, is the only girl I've ever met who can make me happy. Well, Richard nearly jumped out of his lazy boy. She can't make you happy, he declared. Richard's point was, nobody's going to make me happy. To make someone else happy, even a spouse, is a burden no human should be asked to bear. Obviously, you need to marry a person who is compatible with you and whom you enjoy. If you don't, the marriage will be difficult. And of course, you want to marry a person of character. Lots of good people have been hurt by terrible behavior of their spouses. But first and foremost, a good marriage is about you and me, not him or her. It's about you and me being trustworthy. It's about honoring our spouses. It's about you and me being faithful followers of Jesus with all the character and commitment that come with that. Nobody's going to make you and me happy. In a few minutes, I'll be back, and we'll get even more frank in our conversation about marriage.
Jesus, you're my heart's first love, and you've been holding on to me. You once were the air I breathe, so still my heart to remember. Jesus, I am wandering, but you're chasing after me. You once gave your life for me, my soul to remember. Still my soul to remember. Your oceans wave without thinking. Your mountains rise without knowing. Your rivers run without needing to know where they are going. Your lilies spinning so free. Oh, they're happy to be. So teach me this kind of humility. Teach me this kind of humility. Jesus, I am struggling. Lord, I'm struggling to see. I'm doubting your provision. Still my soul to remember that Jesus, you're my heart's first love, and you're leading me home through the fire and the flood to the place where I belong. So still my soul to remember. Your oceans wave without thinking. Your mountains rise without knowing. Your rivers run without needing to know where they are going. Your lilies spinning so free. Oh, they're happy to be. So teach me this kind of humility. Teach me this kind of humility. Jesus, you're my heart's first love.
Soft and sweet is the song that you sing. Why are you so afraid?
Out of the Dust is a music duo, Christian husband-wife, who sing beautiful music together. Steph and Chris Teague join us now from Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you both for being here.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Travis is talking to us today about family, continuing his series, and specifically marriage. Now, you two are the duo that almost wasn't. Can you share a little bit about your story?
Sure, yeah. So we, like many people in the South, met when we were very young. I was 17 and 16. Kind of did all the right things, checked all the boxes, got married when I was 20, she was 19. And, very quickly figured out that marriage wasn't the thing that was going to fulfill every life dream that I had. Kind of suffered alone for a while, and believed a lot of lies and ended up getting divorced, leaving Stephanie, leaving the church, completely swore off God and everything. I thought I would find happiness. I don't know even what I truly need and what I truly want, and the things that I thought I needed, the things that I thought I wanted, ultimately that all failed me. And in that dark moment, I came to experience God. That was Stephanie's prayer for me when I left. She said, I just wish you could experience him the way that I do.
I felt completely blindsided when he came to me that one day, and January 21st, the day I'll never forget, when he shared that he didn't want to be married and didn't believe in God anymore. So, oh, as the girl who worked really hard to be the good Christian girl, do all the right things, saw the world very black and white, that didn't fit into my plan for my life. Divorce wasn't supposed to be a part of my story. And so it was about a year that we were apart, and that year God so graciously used in my life to show me my own sin and my own brokenness that I just was too blind to see. I think from the outside I thought I was doing all the right things, but even without me knowing, there was this festering pride and self-righteousness and just ugliness that didn't help in our issues in our marriage, for sure.
What advice would you give to someone whose spouse wants a second chance? It's not easy. What advice would you give?
No, yeah, and our
Dive right back in.
I would not say that. I would say, just first and foremost, it's so important to be, and it's such a churchy answer, but just to be in prayer and be walking with the Lord so you can seek His wisdom through it. I would say involve people outside of yourself. Like, yes, pray, but having a counselor, a pastor, close people to you who can,
Marriage coaches, yeah.
who can walk with you along that path, because we're all called to forgive. And as we were walking through our rebuilding, I had forgiven him, but trust is totally different. And trust takes time. And some friends of ours, they always say the trust breaker is the trust maker. So it takes time. It takes you seeing over that period of time, the repeated actions that person is worthy of your trust again.
And oftentimes when we go through trials and tribulations, it makes it stronger. Have you found that with your marriage today?
Oh yeah, we always say our second marriage is completely unrecognizable from our first.
I mean, we're different people.
Yeah, God transformed our lives while we were apart. That's the first miracle right there.
God changes your marriage by changing you, right?
Yeah.
And so not by necessarily changing your spouse. It's two people committed to God, walking together towards a common goal, not in service to themselves, but in service to something greater. Mm-hmm. That's what marriage is about.
And today you have two beautiful children and making music together. Really enjoy your music. I want to send everyone to your website, outofthedustmusic.com. You do speaking engagements. Of course, download all the music that you have there. Really appreciate you guys doing this today.
Absolutely. Glad we could. Yeah, and please, if anybody's watching or listening, reach out to us at any point on our website or socials, anywhere. We'd love to
be an
encouragement
everything
to you, praying for you.
We're having a frank conversation about marriage. Next, and this is a real hard one, some talk about wives submitting to their husbands has been used to justify abuse. Don't fall for that. In our larger national Christian family, there's been a lot of talk about Christian wives submitting to their husbands. Now, I know that there are a lot of wonderful Christian marriages in which the husband and wife have chosen traditional roles, in which, for example, the husband makes the big decisions and the wife supports those decisions. I know that works well in many strong and loving marriages, and that's a good thing. I support that. However, some men seem to talk an awful lot about the submission of wives, almost like an obsession. I suspect male insecurity is behind the never-ending insistence by many Christian men that their wives submit to them. To be clear, I believe lots of men talk about their wives' need to submit to them because of those men's fragile male egos. And sadly, and here's where it gets serious, more than one Christian leader has been known to downplay abuse in the name of a wife submitting to her husband. So let me be clear to the women listening to me. You do not have to remain with someone who's abusing you in order to be a good Christian wife. Ladies, don't fall for the warped message that a wife should put up with abuse in order to submit as a good Christian wife. If you're a woman being abused, do not remain in the same house with that man. Next, your marriage needs boundaries. As I said last week, husbands and wives must invest in your relationship. But that's not all. You must establish boundaries to protect your relationship. Boundaries such as the amount of time you will spend and the places you will go with someone of the opposite sex who's not your spouse. After all, you're human. Carrie and I established those boundaries 40 years ago, and I'm glad we did. Finally, divorce is not your last chance at a good marriage. Some of you have experienced the pain of divorce, a pain some have compared to a death. So I want you to know that you are not soiled. You are not second class. You're not a second class person. God certainly is grieved whenever one's covenant of marriage is broken and people are hurt. He even says, I hate divorce. But divorce does not have to be the end of the story. In Matthew 19, following a loaded question about divorce, Jesus referred back to Genesis 2:24 and quoted, "For this reason a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two," he said, "but one flesh. Therefore," Jesus continued, "what God has joined together, let no one separate." The Greek word translated "be united" there means to bind, to adhere, to glue or stick together. It's the word the Greeks used to describe adhesive. In some English translations of the Bible, the word is translated cleave. To cleave is something you can do no matter your marital history. If you're married and this is not your first marriage, or you're divorced and one day hope to be married again, you can still make a commitment to cleaving, to sticking with your husband or wife like glue. My parents' marriage was a second marriage for them both, but they cleaved to each other. They stuck to each other for decades. They could not undo the past, but they could determine the future. And they cleaved. They kept their covenant with each other. Any man and any woman can determine that he or she will be committed solely and completely to his or her present or future spouse forever, till death do them part. I was standing with the groom, about to walk in for the wedding ceremony one day, when an attractive young woman who was not the bride came back and grabbed the groom in a big bear hug. She hugged him long and she hugged him strong. She was obviously emotional over the fact that this young man was getting married. He must have seen the concern on my face, so he said, "This is my sister." Whew. I was relieved to hear that. Then the young lady gave the groom, her brother, some advice. She said, "You can do this. You can make it work. All you have to do is say 'I do' over and over and over for the rest of your life." And that's a pretty good prescription for a lasting marriage. Husbands and wives who thrive remember their vows, their covenant, and they say, "I do," for the rest of their lives. They believe, as Jesus said, that God Himself made them one.
Glory, honor to the one who overcame, everlasting God. You'll forever reign. Glory, honor to the one who overcame, everlasting God. You'll forever reign. Glory, honor to the one who overcame, everlasting is the Lord Almighty. Holy, 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 holy is the Lord Almighty. The Lord Almighty.
Tennessee Valley Church means church has left the building, so has membership. Here's what I mean. You might be feeling a need or maybe even a call from God to be part of our church family in a more tangible way. If you're not able to join us physically here at 600 Governors Drive, whether because of distance, mobility, schedule, or some other reason, you still can be a member of First Baptist Huntsville. Let me send you information on what that would mean, what you could expect from your church, and what your church would expect from you. Email me at travis@fbchsv.org. Let me know of your desire for membership, and I'll help you get started. Join hands with us as we attempt to join hands with God Himself in His mission to the world.